Suave, suave.
How do you decide between anime and visual novel?
¿Por qué no los dos?
Or, you know, as in the case of Steins Gate Elite, neither. Here's why the Steins Gate anime visual novel hybrid is a massive failure on almost every account. Actually, wait, let's start with what it does do right, because there are a few things. Well, okay, there's like one thing, but it's kind of big. Given that this is the visual novel, but animated, as is the entire point, if you want to see the alternate endings move, this is your only option. Want to see Okabe absolutely loses shit in the Suzuha ending, hold hands with Mayuri, have to sex with Rukako? How about seeing Freitas jump on Okabe's dick? Well, it's either this or actually not, because now that I've shown it to you, you no longer need to play this and we can move on to why it actually sucks. Oops. And the problems start right from the title screen. If you're thinking, now wait a second, King of Weeaboos, this doesn't look half bad. Well, you're right. Black and white with a single accent color, I've seen worse ripoffs of Persona 5. What I haven't seen though is any trace of Steins Gate in here. I mean, look at the glossary. Does this or does this not look noticeably familiar yet remarkably shitty at the same time? That's just sad. Now, it's not like the original didn't have a boring and lackluster title screen, but there's a difference between inspiration and trying to rip off something better without understanding what made it so good in the first place. First off, and we need to get this out of the way because this is really bothering me, where the fuck did this blue come from? Seriously, literally nothing in Steins Gate is this color. What intern decided that this inoffensive corporate palette is what grunge retro future sensation Steins Gate should look like? Let me show you what this should look like. This is the Steins Gate spin-off linear bounded Pentagram. Is this, or is this not, the sickest shit you've ever seen? I mean, even if P5 wannabe post-minimalist funk was the way to go, which it's not, it would be linear bounded Phenagram's LCD green, not baby's first graphic design blue. What the hell font even is this? Bebas Noe? What an actual joke. Look at the amount of detail that went into this. The Dixie tubes, the 90s LCD panels, the little analog buttons that you could actually use to control the menu. Guys, this can't be that hard. In fact, I know it isn't, and the reason I know this is because this is literally the main aesthetic of Steins Gate Elite's fucking intro movie. It's like two completely different sets of people were in charge of this, and only one of them knew what they were doing. Look at the glossary in the original. What accent color are they using? Green. They're using green. This is what this should look like, not this. This. Shit, fam. Moving on to the actual game. Instead of the stylized text boxes of Steins Gate, it's a full screen presentation to showcase the anime visuals, which in theory I like, but whereas the visual novel was, again, stylized and grungy, this is a fucking sad gray gradient layered on the bottom of the screen with literally no thought put into the spacing, with the text just stretching all the way to the edge of the screen. I think the idea was to make this as unobtrusive as possible, but it's just so ass ugly that this has the opposite effect. And again, what the hell is this font choice? This feels neither sleek nor modern, it's not edgy, and it's not particularly easy to read. If I were to use one word to describe the interface here, it would be underdesigned. Not minimalist, underdesigned. How did they screw this up so badly? This is the one thing you're gonna be seeing for the entire game. What the actual hell? Okay, I hear you, King of Weeaboos. Whatever, we're not graphic designers. What we actually want to know is the actual game good? So, can you shut the fuck up and actually talk about it? And okay, fair, but this brings us to the biggest issue, which is the entire base concept. Well, that's not good. See, the idea is, okay, we have anime and also visual novel, but the novel is way longer and more in-depth. So, what if we just put the anime visuals here and then it would be like a longer director's cut of the anime? And you'd think that would be the case if the visual novel were just a longer version of the anime, but it's not. For one, as I covered extensively in my video comparing the anime and visual novel, not only has the anime been rewritten to be wittier and far better paced, the tone is just so very slightly different. And can you guess which audio they used for this? That's right, they used the original visual novel audio and the original visual novel audio only. So most of the scenes were animated for an entirely different performance, and as such, like half of the lines just do not fit the visuals at all, and another quarter of them have all facial expression and movement just completely X, so the increased number of animated lip flaps would line up. What we get is a completely mismatched jumble of animation that just feels wrong. And that's not even the only problem with their approach here. See, they didn't have enough scenes from the anime on account of the VN being like longer and stuff, so they had to come up with new ways of filling in visuals, and so a lot of it was just lifted from other scenes. Now, this might actually just be a problem unique to me, as literally the only person in the world who has not only watched and played Steins Gate like 20 times each, but also made about 60 different video essays on it. So maybe immediately knowing exactly what scene literally every bit of animation in this game came from is not an issue the average weeaboo would run into. But again, I do feel like most people would get a sense that too much of the art just looks out of place. Like, when you repeatedly just re-edit and rearrange animation to save on budget, there's no way that's ever gonna feel natural. I mean, I can't even tell you the number of scenes they literally just recolored to be a different time of day. Like, does this not look wrong to you? Sure, again, maybe the problem is that I know Steins Gate better than my own right hand knows my dick, but when you see Okabe sitting at the computer midway through the story and he's still holding the piece of corn from the beginning, like, what? You didn't even bother editing this out? What the hell is wrong with you? The other reason so much of this doesn't work, besides the obvious number of quarters being cut with production, is that the developers are visual novel devs, not animators. Obviously. But when you're making an anime as a game, you need to know how to animate, and this does not involve putting a fade transition between literally every fucking cut in the entire 30-hour game. Literally every single one. This is fine for visual novels when the background changes like every 10 minutes tops. This does not work when the camera angle is changing every 10 seconds. This is jarring, and anyone with any, like literally more than zero experience in film or animation should be able to cockslap you in the face and tell you that this looks horrible. Like, what the fuck? They obviously had to work with the animation team in some capacity. How did none of them tell you what's wrong with this? Jesus Christ, bro. So let's move on to the other conceptual problem with this, which is the script. It's trying to be both the anime and the visual novel, but for some reason only using the visual novel, so naturally fails at both of them. Again, I've already spent like 30 minutes on this, so I'll just put a link here, stop the video and come back if you're not convinced by the time I finish this paragraph. No, seriously, actually stop and go watch it, but the anime's dialogue is just far smarter and wittier. Despite being like a quarter of the runtime, the anime feels so much fuller and more complete because, for one, it just understands the chemistry between each of the characters, especially Okabe and Kurisu, so much better. Take this scene of them preparing for Okabe's date with Rukako.
にゃにゃ今日も誰かとデートするのにゃ奥義習得の任務のためとはいえ手当たり次第にいろんな子に手を出しすぎだにゃはあ手当たり次第にいろんな子に
おい誤解を生むようなことだけ言い残して去るな
Now, here's the same scene in Elite.
今日待ってばいろんな子に手を出しすぎだにゃ
はあいろんな子に手を出しすぎなのか
何をバカな
Do you see the difference this last line makes? It just makes the entire thing so much more playful. Without it, the only thing this scene does is establish a set of ideas. Okabe is going on a date. Fenris comes by and establishes that Kurisu is jealous. This bothers Okabe. Cool, I guess. Now, I'm not saying that this is bad writing, far from it, but with this added in, their friendship feels less like a strictly defined set of ideas that needs to be conveyed to progress the story, and more like they're actually teasing each other as they dance around Okabe and Kurisu's unspoken romance. This doesn't just progress the story, this adds to all three characters. They feel like real people, not characters in an anime. The problem here is that all of the anime's revisions to the script are just gone. So if you've seen the anime, it's gonna feel inferior because it's missing like 10% of the dialogue despite being 4 times longer. Or it's just gonna feel weird when they do use what the anime added, but without using the extra dialogue. Like, they do show Okabe and Kurisu's lab coat pose, only neither character mentions or even acknowledges what they're doing because it wasn't originally in the visual novel, so showing this without any explanation just feels jarring and out of place. Or the part where they just randomly included narration from Kurisu just so they could include that shot of her not wearing pants, because of course they had to, except it's confusing to read because it's literally the only part of the game told from her point of view. Anyway, this would all be fine, or at the very least less terrible, if it had everything that made the visual novel great in the first place, but it doesn't. It's not like the original wasn't already lacking in this department, but they took away all of the gameplay in this narrative video game. One of the main things I praised about the visual novel in my comparison video was how much the cell phone mechanic added to the characters and the world of Steins Gate. You keep getting to have these side conversations with every character as the story goes on, making each one of them feel so much more alive and like you're actually experiencing every moment as they happen. And the fact that it let you choose whether or not to interact with them put you in Okabe's shoes as you get to discover the joy of leaving Moeka on red when you realize she just does not shut the fuck up. Not only that, it just gives so much more personality to Okabe as a character. Why does he have a phone? Specifically this one. It's because it's cool, practical, and cheap, and you getting to interact with this piece of technology limited to only a few short years in Japan really gives the world of Steins Gate a sense of place. So what Elite does is get rid of cell phones entirely and instead shoves an email in your face every 20 minutes. I'm sorry, what? Not only did you get rid of the most important aspect of the game, you replaced it with something that made the game worse. Who the hell came up with this? Seriously, the story just grinds to a halt every time one of these comes up as it forces you to interact with every single email. This might be okay if it were only in scene changes, but it literally interrupts entire scenes just to drop random emails in your face. Like they just straight up put one smack dab into the Ferris Cup scene for no reason. What the hell? I mean, it's not like I didn't read every single email in the original, but being forced to read them makes them feel completely different and go against literally everything that made the email thing good in the first place. It's like the designers didn't even play the original and just had the vague concept mansplained to them on the train to the office. One of my favorite scenes in the visual novel is when you're running away from the viral attackers with Fetus and you go to the warehouse to hide when Kurisu calls you on the phone. If you ignore it, you escape with Fetus, but if you choose to answer it, she gives you instructions on specifically how to use your surroundings to distract them and slip out. In Elite, you automatically get this in the Kurisu route, and if you aren't, Okabe just hangs up immediately. Like, that's just sad. I mean, you don't even get to operate the cell phone to send the D-mails anymore, even though this would make literally no difference in how the game plays out. Instead, you're just given the choice to either send the D-mail or not to. Why would this not use the cell phone? That was cool. That was literally the whole point of the phone wave in the first place. They thought it would be cool if they could heat up chicken with their cell phones, and it was. So you just randomly decided to make the game less cool. Who does that? Who re-releases a game and changes things just to make them less cool? Fuck you, seriously. Eat shit. And not only that, a big part of each D-mail was that rather than choosing not to send them, you were instead not choosing to send them. So Okabe's choice became his, and by extension your, lack of conviction. It was not an action, but a lack of action that was the choice you were presented with. But doing like this just makes not sending a D-mail just as much of a choice as sending one, and is missing the subtle implication that rather than choosing each bad ending, Okabe simply failed to erase them and told himself that this was his choice. Lastly, and this is maybe even the most unforgivable thing in the entire game, they changed the one scene the visual novel does better than the anime. When Okabe finds Kurisu at the Radakan building, contemplating her own mortality before escaping from the rain into the darkened stairwell, it's this hauntingly melancholy moment as they sit there, isolated from the rest of the world. While the anime's pacing is generally far better, it's scenes like this where the extra runtime of the visual novel really works, because it's this isolated moment where time almost seems to come to a complete stop as they huddle together in the cold, damp stairwell, desperately wanting to leave this moment behind, well, wishing it would never end, each coming to terms with their feelings for the other and the reality of what Okabe has to do. Eventually, they part and go their separate ways. Okabe returns to the lab, hoping to see her sitting there as always, but the only trace of her is a single email with a quote from Horace about living life day by day and a message telling him to do what he knows he has to, silently resigning herself to her fate as she leaves this world and her life in his hands. So instead, Elite just ignores this bit of the story completely because lol, what the fuck is a cell phone? And then in the Kurisu ending, for some reason, Okabe time leaps a whole bunch more for absolutely no reason. Again, fuck you, why would you get rid of this? Actually ridiculous. Now, Elite did add one other cool thing, which is that they added to all of the @channel scenes and really fleshed out the message board conversations, and by fleshed out, I mean made them a fucking chore to sit through because Jesus Christ, these would be cool if they didn't go on for like 20 minutes each. Some of us have cool YouTube videos to make, why is this so long? I hate this, I absolutely hate it. Don't play this game, just play the original visual novel instead, it's great. Now if you're like, but King of Weeaboos, it's not that bad, it's basically still Steins Gate and you get the full story and it's animated and stuff, that's cool, right? Right? No, it's not. It's not, and here's why. You can't just think of it in a vacuum because there's at least 2 other versions of Steins Gate. What you have to think about is what you're getting, and equally importantly, what you're not getting. With the anime, you're getting an improved script that's not only much more digestible, but overall a better version of the story. With the visual novel, the art and design, and especially the cell phone mechanics are just a more immersive experience. Steins Gate Elite has neither the anime's script nor the visual novel's mechanics. It has the animation, but not only did they just completely shit the bed on this one, the animation is not what made the anime so great. The script is. The only thing you actually get is the different endings, and for that you should just watch the stage play and not waste 30 hours of your life. This game is horrible. It has no reason to exist, at least not in its current form. If they actually put in the effort to re-record the dialogue to actually match what the anime brought to the table, it could have been great, but instead it's awkward and clunky and a waste of your time. So this has been one of the longer and more difficult entries in my series reviewing every single Steins Gate spinoff, and we're getting pretty close to the end. There's a lot of shorter stuff, but let's be honest, those aren't worth their own video, and the mini review I'll give when we make our tier list is just all that's gonna be worth saying about most of these entries. But if you missed any of my other reviews, you can check out my playlist right here, and hopefully it won't take me this long to get through the Steins Gate 0 visual novel. As always, thank you so much for your time, friends, and I'll see you in the next video.